Okay, simple interest. Now, if you keep your money under the bed or in a drawer at home, then whatever amount of money you start with is the same as the amount of money you end up with 2 years later. It's just been sitting under the bed. Actually, given inflation, which is actually compound interest, but we won't go there yet, given inflation, your money is actually worth less in 2 years' time than it was today. And we don't want that. So what you can do is you can take your money to a bank and you can say, you look after this money for me for a couple of years, and then I'll come back in 2 years and get it back from you, and the bank will say, thank you very much, we'll give you some interest as a reward, as a payment for you letting us use your money for 2 years. Now, in practice, most banks use compound interest, but we'll start with simple interest. There are actually some things you can do with a bank that do use simple interest, like term deposits. There are also some things you can do with shares, debentures, and there's another one I can't think of right now. They are also simple interest investments. Of course, also, if you go to a shop and you take a simple interest loan, for example, you go out and you say, you know, buy now, pay later for an ordinary simple thing, it's simple interest. If you don't pay by the due time for payment, then yes, they'll start charging you. Well, it's not even compound interest, it's more complicated than that. But again, we're not going there right now. Simple interest first. The formula for simple interest is very straightforward. Basically, your interest is the amount you invest, your principal, multiplied by the percentage you want. And if you happen to invest it for more than a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just multiply that by the number of years. This is time, however, not years. And when we come to trying a couple of problems, this doesn't have to be years, as long as the rate and the time match. So if this is years, then your rate has to be a percentage amount per year. If this is a percentage rate per week, then this has to be the number of weeks. You have to make them match. You may sometimes see this written, you may have a textbook or something, you may see it written like this, PRT on 100. This also works, but what I tend to do, I say, make the rate a decimal instead of having a big number you have to divide by 100. And the reason is later on the formulas get much more complicated, and when you start using those tricky formulas, I'd much rather just have one number here than something divided by 100. It gets far too complex later on. So, where have I put my eraser? So I prefer, this works, but I prefer just to use that. Okay? I'll show you how this works. Interest, principal, the amount you invest, rate as a decimal, and time. Let's have a look. Formula gives me the interest. So, calculate the interest earned on $400 invested at 7% per annum for 6 years. So all I do is write the formula, PRT, put in what I know, that's my principal, that's how much I'm borrowing, 7% per annum, that's 0.07. If you get stuck on that, you go 7 divided by 100. The percent sign just means divide by 100. 0.07 times by the time 6 years, because they're matched. Having done that, you get your calculator and you ask for 400 times 0.07 times 6. $168. How much was the interest earned? $168, straight out of the formula. Okay? Again, you can write times 7 here and then divide it by 100. I prefer to do that in one step at the start because later on it's going to get much harder. Or rather, it's much harder, much messier. Big formulas, I'd rather have one number for the rate. Okay, $2,100 invested at 2% per month for 1 year. Okay, write the formula down. See what I'm doing? I'm doing it wrong. Let me try again. Principal times rate times time. I'm trying to think about too much at once. Okay. Now this time I have a monthly amount. Usually it's PA, per annum, meaning per year. But this time it's per month. It doesn't matter. As long as my month and my rate amount, which is months, matches my time amount, which is years. So I'm just going to make this 1 year into months. How many months in 1 year? 12 months. So, 2,100 times 0.02 times number of months. Quite straightforward. Get your calculator, put it in. 2,100 times 0.02 times 12 months. $504. It's pretty messy. I can do that again. Okay, $504. Too easy. One more example. Let's have a look. So, calculate the interest earned on $500 invested at 6% per annum for 10 months. Again, my little warning's going off. The rate and the time have to match. At the moment this is per year and this is months. Now I can do this either of two ways. Let me write the formula down. PRT. Okay. My principal is $500. Let's try first doing it at 6% per annum, 0.06, and the time, number of years. Well, this is 10 months. How much of a year is it? Well, isn't it 10 months out of 12? Of course, 10 months out of 12 months. That's all you have to do, and you get your calculator. 500 times 0.06 times 10 over 12. $25. But see, I could have done it the other way. I could just as easily have written, find a pen that works, I could just as easily have written I equals PRT 500 times, the rate is 6% per annum. How much is that per month? Oh, well, if it's 6% per year, then I have to divide that by 12. Notice I'm doing the same thing, just at a different time. 6 divided by 12 is a half. So it's 0.005 times 10 months. And you will find you get the same number. Okay? It doesn't matter as long as the rate and the time match. You see, all I did over here was I got the 6 divided by 12, whereas on this side I was getting it doesn't matter, it does the same thing, as long as the rate and the time match. But I actually want to ask you a slightly different question now. Suppose, instead of asking for the interest earned, suppose instead I ask you for the future value of $500 invested at 6% per annum for 10 months. Well, what I'm saying is, if this was the interest I earned, how much do I now have in my account? How much do I actually get back from the bank? Because I gave them some money, so as well as getting this interest back, I'm going to get my money back. Well, the future value, the total amount I have at the end, is simply the $500 I invested plus the $25. Now I didn't even need to write that really. That was a very simple sum, $525. So you can work out either the interest or the future value with the same formula.